So, welcome again to the stream of thought. Hopefully, I need to turn the microphone feed up again. Can you hear me now? Is this better? It looks a little better. What is not better is the fact that the room next to the music room is always buzzing because I think this is right next to the radiator. But, take the good with the bad. I at least have a room where I can talk to myself now and, actually record stuff. I recorded the Google Stadia thing, so I I've set a goal for myself that I need to get that out because one of the things I talk about is dependent on February 14th because that's when people are going to have to start paying for it if they bought into it early. But yeah, that's I'm actually really excited about this year because just a lot of things have happened. First of all, I wrote for my first notes that I should be focusing on my schoolwork and stuff, but I just keep feeling this thing about quick play I mentioned last week, and whether or not I want to do that with my roommate, and it's I'm either going to do it with a partner or by myself over the summer because I don't have any sort of resources to do that right now. I just really feel something about it, and I want to ask my roommate, but because I feel we have good chemistry when we play he plays games or when we play games together, and I don't know, I feel like we could make it work, but I'm not entirely sure about it sometimes. But when we're not doing stuff like that, it's mainly my fault. I tend to be less talkative most of the time, and he wants to say something or a meme or something like that and try to get me to talk about stuff like that. He's obviously way more social than I am, but sometimes I just don't feel it. And again, that's mostly my fault, and I can work on that kind of stuff. But he also just kind of I don't know how he's going to act if I put him in front of a camera, that kind of stuff. Because he could say really shady and racist things sometimes, which he has been known to do in just in private conversation. And that's fine. He's not a bad person for saying something like that. It's just sometimes it's a joke that relies on that sort of thing. I just don't know if he'll do that often enough during recordings, and if I have to pull him back a little bit, and that's the last thing I want to do when I'm doing a recording, be change who you are for this. That's just something that I don't want to. That's something I really just don't want to do. I don't know. Maybe that's just my nature of being who I am. I have this opportunity to try and do something really cool, but I would just see the bad in all of it and just wimp out because of it, and I really just need to probably just go with the wind and do whatever I want, do whatever I just choose to do. That it'd be cool. It'd be very cool. I did come out. I did think of a test channel to see well, not even my roommate, just see other people if they would be good with what I do. I could bring other people in to be a channel called Trial Period or something like that. It's a work in progress because the first logo that I was thinking of would have the initials of TP, and that's just a problem waiting to happen. But yeah, in my notes I have just a bunch of things of our interactions and stuff, and either either say yes about it or say no about it every so often, and I can't bring myself to make a decision at this point. Probably when I have much more stable position to be able to do that regularly, because at the moment there's only the Xbox in our room right now, and that's rather limited considering what we have available as far as games go. And once we run out of games, like, what do we do then? We really just don't have anything to work with. Yeah, so like maybe next semester once I like have my own PC up here, maybe I'll be able to maybe we'll be able to do more stuff with that because I've got a decent collection of games on my library at the moment, and I assume Alex has some sort of I assume he has also some sort of uh what is the word called? Library as well. God, I'm terrible. Words are hard. I also wrote down a note that says I need to stop picking my face because I got a lump on the side of my cheeks because there's been zits growing on them, and I just picked them all away. It's been a big problem for me, like for my whole life ever since I started growing zits. It's because like I get stressed, and when I get stressed, I start like scratching on my face a little bit, and when I feel a zit, I'm like, well, fuck, that has to go. It's just it's not great for my own self-image, but I'm trying my best to like stop doing it. I've been biting my fingers every time I feel myself trying to go for it, which I've, you know, negative reinforcement only goes so far. I need to like figure out how to do a permanent situation and like make sure my zits stop coming, which I don't think is an actual thing that happens in human life. Zits probably don't actually ever stop coming if any of like the internet memes are to be believed, which, as you know, internet memes are the source of all information and all that is good. Had the Super Bowl last weekend, which was super fun. I guess I got to meet one of my friends before she went off to go to basic to become part of the National Guard. Saw her out, got her Christmas present on that day. I feel like an asshole because because I got the Christmas present so late, but you know, it just came very, very late, and I just like I don't know what to do. I gotta wait for it. But they like the Christmas present, so all was good. The people I saw the Super Bowl with were energetic, to say the least. And not so much everybody there, but two people come to mind. They're both Packers fans, but they ended up like yelling hardcore in favor of the Chiefs, which I found rather ridiculous because like, boy, there's like no way you can influence the game by screaming that loud. And what kind of stake do you have in the game? It's not your favorite team, and you don't have like any sort of share in it. Now, I don't know personally. Maybe he had like some sort of bets going on with like my bookie or something like that. And you know, to his own. He can do whatever he wants. I find it interesting, the whole yelling at the TV type of thing. And speaking of the commercial, I was like super looking forward to seeing the conclusion of the Planters thing where they killed Mr. Peanut, only to find that they used baby nut as a hashtag, unironically, mind you, for their whole Mr. Planters Gets Reborn campaign. And like people were starting to call them out because like they're trying to ride off of the Baby Yoda and Baby Groot type of thing. But what people seem to be forgetting is that they unironically used hashtag baby nut as a legitimate campaign, and nobody in Planters thought that that was a bad idea. They couldn't have done like baby Mr. Peanut or like Mr. Peanut lives or something like that. But no, it had to be hashtag baby nut. Hashtag baby nut. Granted, it's probably better than saying hashtag baby pee, but it's not good. I'm glad that I'm alive to see such idiotic mistakes in marketing. Anyway, as far as another bad commercial, SodaStream had the audacity to be like, look at all these amazing accomplishments. It was water on the moon. They were like, we found water on the moon. Look at how great this is. This changes everything. Cut to a guy using a SodaStream, and they'll be like, wow, this changes everything. That's amazing. And I'm like, uh-oh. Audacity is freaking out a bit. I need to hang on. Okay. I guess that's fine. The Audacity was doing something weird, so I stopped the recording and exported what I had in case like hitting record would delete everything that I already had. It doesn't look like it's deleting it, so it looks like I'm fine. For some reason, my throat started hurting again because, I decided I wanted to start doing recording stuff again. And ever since I did like the backyard baseball video, my throat was hurting then. But in between, it was fine. Now that I wanted to do stuff again, it started hurting again. Ain't that some stuff? Maybe because like I started focusing more on my throat, more on like how I would sound when I'm behind the mic. But it still feels like sickness is against me all the time. I still don't think I've gotten over this nasally voice thing. I think that's just a part of who I am. And I hate it. Still hate it. One thing that I don't hate is this room, because I absolutely believe some people have passed by now, and I was not able, and I didn't have to stop talking for them. Yes, isolation for the win, boys. One thing that I do have against this room, though, is that ever since I got in here, there's like absolutely no circulation, save for the door next to me that's continuously buzzing. But it's hot. It's really hot in here. Like when I was recording for Stadia, I got up and like my jeans were damp. And with that great mental image in mind, is just imagine like it's a completely dry room with one piano and me just like pressing the buttons to fidget during the Stadia recording. I'm not fidgeting now because this is just me. This is just me talking, but during that recording I was like full performance mode and my hands were just doing whatever they were doing. I guess it's better than picking my face all the time, so, that's a plus. As far as Super Bowl commercials go, there was also one, I think it was for, I don't know, some sort of makeup brand chain. I don't know. It had like the thing where they were like, some fool in the world still saying like, is there enough room for women in space? Which in itself is just like, alright, well, why would you purposely get people infuriated about that? I guess to like promote the whole women in space type thing, like make that a thing. I mean, it's a good thing to go for, but I feel like having the women go to space in a bottle of like eyeliner is not exactly the kind of message people want to be sending when they're like promoting equality and all of like the major buttons are face or like what is it like face cream sort of thing. I totally agree with the message they're going for, but the execution of it just makes it really laughable in my eyes. Kind of like taking one step forward, one step back. So we just kind of end up back to where we are. It's fine. I know I had it. Did I not write it down? I wrote about the halftime show at least, which apparently people are so up in a bend about. People were saying that like it was a bad stripper night or something like that. Just like how it was so sexualized and stuff like that. Which, to me, you can be like as sexualized as you want. But I mean, think of the 12-year-olds that just want to watch football. I think this may have been like a theme for every single Super Bowl halftime show, because I remember during Super Bowl 45, I personally didn't watch the halftime show because either my parents just like sent me downstairs to do something, or that's when we all got food or something. So maybe they were always sexualized, and now that this Super Bowl this year is super interesting, I actually watched it. So, yeah. I didn't know what they were saying for the entirety of the Super Bowl, for that the entirety of the halftime show. Half because they were in a different language, which was pretty cool, and half because the people that were watching it with me were loud and playing pool loudly. So, I think it went on for far too long. I don't get why there needs to be like 40 stars to do the halftime show when just 2 is really what they're aiming for. The songs themselves, the performance itself has like multiple different songs, so it feels like the show ends like 5 different times. And it's like, beginning structure is a great thing. Don't like make us don't have like the big climactic end just for you to start all over again. That's just keeping your audience in limbo, and eventually it's just like, all right, can we get this over with now? I'm kind of done watching. Although had they ended it on the first time through, we would not have gotten the gold that was I know I'm gonna mispronounce her name, something Lopez or Shakira. Dang it, what was her name? Oh no, I feel like such a jerk. I don't want to look it up because then that's gonna just take time. And it's hard to talk and fill space at the same time. God, why am I such an ass? Oh no, it's so far away too. But yeah, people are all upset about how like these 50-year-old women are just shaking their booties in the camera and stuff like that. And pole dancing, that was a new one for me. Like, what? We're really going to teach our kids the great art about pole dancing. Oh my god. The first video I see is, who were the 2 rappers in the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show? So, like, I guess I'm not the only one who's just like, who the hell are these people? Why are they here? Jennifer Lopez, that's the one. I wanted to say Shakira Lopez, but I knew that wasn't correct. Because, yeah, Shakira was the second person. And I think she was the one that did, like, the war cry thing. The one where she was like, directly into the camera. And I was the only one watching at that point, and I died listening to that. It was just like, the halftime show was just all noise to me. I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't get what was going on. And, I feel rather indifferent about it. Like, the halftime show is not the point I was there for. And honestly, if you're there for the halftime show, like, what are you doing, man? There's so much other better stuff going around during that time. But just like all noise, just all spectacle, nothing that I could really latch onto that I could say was like good, bad, or indifferent. I was just like, yeah, it's going. And then she pulls out that, and that made my night. It was hilarious. And I feel bad about saying that because that's probably not what they were intending. They were probably intending to be like an homage to some sort of culture or something like that. And, people are getting upset about that because, it comes off as racist or something. And I'm like, dude, we can have other cultures in our country. We can have different people with different talents and stuff like that. It's not just closed off. But, at the end of the day, by all means, by like all objective means, it was a good performed show. And I feel like, that's even like contriving a reason to say something good about it. I didn't like. I wouldn't say I disliked it, but I didn't like enjoy it. You know, it's not. It's not. It falls into like the James Bond problem where there's just so much of it and they just have to continuously ramp up the stakes to the point where everything is just so pretentious, so celebrated, so like actively trying to be the best one, or like trying so hard to just outdazzle everything that has come before it, to a point where you just kind of lose the essence of what you were trying to go for in the first place, which was, I assume, originally just to fill the gap between the biggest football game that the NFL has. And it's a problem, I think. They should like tone down the halftime show a little bit, in my opinion. But I come from a family that has a rather high mental age, so I feel like that's like the 90-year-old me coming out to be like, these kids with their long shows need to stop. But that's just me. That's my one opinion out of like millions who probably enjoyed it, so it's whatever. I I don't think it'll ever change. I think it'll just continue on with that whole thing, and the world will continue to revolve around. That's basically it. Uh, you know, Super Bowl was okay after that. It was actually a very interesting game for once in like forever. So that was nice. It was, I think this was the first Super Bowl that I felt like I would be fine with either team winning, because like for a long time, Patriots got there. Wow, great. Everyone just pile drive against them because they deserve it for being so damn good. I'm in a room. Why do I have to stop talking? I heard the door and like froze. Uh, yeah, everyone's just go against the Patriots because they're the good team and they're always winning, and everybody wants them to fail, which is sad. I think they work really hard to get to the top of their performance, but people are just sick of them seeing them winning, which is fair. Nobody likes to see somebody win every single day, every single time, and like it's I feel bad for the Patriots, but at the same time, the dynasty has to end soon enough. So I feel fine with how these playoffs went, and the playoffs themselves were nuts. They were so enjoyable to watch because you had the run that the Titans had, taking down the Patriots and the super hot Ravens, was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like the dream team to like storm the AFC with like no, with like, it was just like they came so out of nowhere. It was nuts. And you had Kansas City coming back from a like 24-point deficit to like trounce the Texans, and then they had like a rather average game against the Titans, which they were again behind and then came back again. You had the Packers beating the Seahawks, the Vikings beating out whatever team they went, the Saints again. That's a team base that you have to feel sorry for, because they had Drew Brees for the longest time and didn't get a single Super Bowl win off of him, probably due to some questionable calls by refs. And in the long run, you can just like look at that and be like, well, that really sucked, but let's move on. And if anybody ever sees this and listens to this all the way to this point in time, which I seriously doubt, you can like look back to when the Packers were taken out of the playoffs by the Seahawks. and they had like the Fail Mary whole debacle where they like went through and was like, it's a catch, it's not a catch, it's intercepted, but it's not intercepted, and it's like, what the hell were you guys doing during that whole time? Because like the Packers guy had the ball, but then they decided it was a touchdown anyway. It's like, why, just why? And that ruined the Packers' shot at another Super Bowl. So it was like, what the hell? You can feel bad about it, but in the end, just you got to play better football to not get in those kinds of situations. I'm at least happy that the Packers got to the NFC Championship this year. Granted, they like lost a head coach, are like going through some serious stuff with like receivers and such. Aaron Rodgers has been like declining in quality ever since 2011. He's just kind of been on and off every now and then. This year they had the infuriating thing where it felt like they were on a self-restriction of like playing only half of a quarter or half of a game. So for like 2 quarters they'd be out of it, but then the next 2 they'd come back and eventually probably win. That is if they weren't like facing a real team in like the 49ers and the Eagles. I say real team, but I don't know. The Eagles were just kind of there. And it was weird. They did beat the Chiefs this year, but they didn't have Patrick Mahomes leading them at the time. So I guess that's ultimately what it came down to. Because, you can look back on it all and like notice during the playoffs the Chiefs were always like down and out or like about to lose or something like that. And then like Patrick Mahomes does his whole thing and comes back super hard. And it's just like a lot of people are saying that Mahomes is going to be like the next dynasty leader, which to me is a little bit of a stretch to say at this point in time, because any number of things can happen. Honestly, football stuff. He could like get injured or not have good enough receivers for his stuff, or just not be, or it could all like go to his head and like start declining, or he could just like start petering out for no reason. Granted, he is young, so like there's no reason he would start petering out in skill anytime soon. But that just leaves more room for it to go to his head very quickly. And, the Chiefs people will obviously say like, no, he's fine, he's not declining, he's okay. While still like clinging onto this Super Bowl, but I don't know. This is the interesting part of football that we will all just have to wait and see. And congrats to Andy Reid for finally getting his Super Bowl ring and people actually giving him credit, because I know a lot of people were making fun of him for previous playoff runs and screwing himself with the clock. But he finally won. He got that super big cheeseburger and slept with his trophy wife, that is. That was an interesting statement. They can say whatever they want because they won the Super Bowl. It's all right. Celebrations are celebrations. It's okay. That's the interesting part of football, I guess. And speaking of interesting football, the XFL this weekend. Boy, oh boy, is that going to be interesting to watch. Apparently, it's gonna be a lot better than the 2000-ish version of it, which just makes me think that this is just like a reboot, probably done well. #DuckTales. But I don't know. I feel like everybody in America is just secretly waiting for this one to flop, which is gonna like bring in ratings to be like people like, is it gonna be dumb? Is it gonna be dumb? Is it gonna be dumb? And then people are just going to like unironically start liking it. And then it's probably going to get better ratings, get more views. There's going to be a lot more memes about it as well. The rules are different than the NFL, which is, there's a lot of interesting ones, like the 2 forward pass rule is that's That's going to be a beast to watch for. But yeah, the first one's on Saturday. Or is it Sunday? I don't have my journal here, so I can't figure it out right now. But it's over the weekend, and I'm going to be watching that because, why wouldn't I? As far as allegiance goes, mine goes to the Battlehawks because, why would you side against somebody named the Battlehawk? It's a Battlehawk. I don't even know what a Battlehawk is, but it sounds awesome. Yeah, that's my thinking going into the XFL. I think they'll definitely get through at least one. I think they'll definitely get to the next season. I'm pretty sure because it's such a ludicrous concept, and this time they are gearing it actually towards TV, so they actually probably have good revenue coming in for that. That's another thing that I have to do over the weekend is for a class. I got to go see Six Fingered Woman, which was written by somebody here in Stevens Point, so that's an interesting bit. It's by my TA that is in my script analysis class. So I feel like we'll all have the obligation to only say nice things about it once we get to class. Ain't that cool? Not that I've heard anybody ever actually criticize a piece of work we've done there. Ooh, I almost left the mic there for a second. I need to actually face the mic. I'm in a weird position. Before I was able to slump around and get into a comfortable position. Now that I'm in the music room, there's no backrest to anything, so I have to oh, there's a backrest to that chair, but it's all the way over there, and I'm already recording. That's a note for later. What was I talking about? Script analysis? Yeah, nobody ever seems to say that something is bad in there. Probably because the teacher cherry picks whatever is actually considered objectively good as far as screenplays go, script plays go, and I don't know. I feel a lot more disconnected to the whole theater stuff than I did when I wasn't doing it, because I knew I still had my high school experience of doing theater, but now that it's taken to a whole new level, I don't know if I enjoy doing that kind of stuff because they're going so deep into everything. We had to have a lecture based on context. We have homework on context. I forgot that. We have to go through it and be what kind of previous action happened here? Which is do we really need to learn this? Do people in a theater major, which they have to compete for, mind you, do they just not get the concept of context? It's so strange to me. And I guess this is my fault for trying to learn, learn stuff in a classroom. But jeez, I didn't think I needed to learn what the clinical definition of it all was. That, and I just do not connect with anybody in the class at all. And I'm trying to find my notes so I can remember exactly everything there. Here it is. I feel more hopeless in script analysis. That's exactly what I feel, brother. And by brother, I mean me. Basically, we had to go in groups and talk about previous action in Oedipus the King, which, it was pretty simple. You talk about the stuff that happened before all of this happened. So you talk about what the shepherd did with the baby, what happened to that baby during the whole thing, and what Oedipus finds out he did to his wife and father, which was, marry and kill in that respective order. and you find out that the wife is the mother, stuff like that. Spoiler alert, it's an old ass thing, so I don't feel bad for spoiling it. But like the one of the girls that was in my group was just like super aggressive towards everyone, and not so like in a confrontational way, but just kind of like she was vibe checking everyone. And I need to like look up what that means, but like she was just like saying, "What's your name? Now what's your actual name? No, tell me what's your name. You're not telling me." It's like, dude, stop and chill for a second. And then like as if to prove a point, she made like an art piece that said vibe check on the front, and I'm like, okay, great job. Nobody's here to put it on the fridge, but that's nice. And like she also came across as extraordinarily pretentious because she marked like the title of her homework with a pen and wrote it like really dark, really thick, really pushed the pen into the paper, kind of stuff like that. And then she took an eraser and smudged it so that it kind of like stretched outward both ways. And like I'm like, why did you have to do that? Just write your damn stuff. And then she continued to do it by like adding more to the title and putting those letters in rainbow font and also doing the same eraser thing with that. And I was like, there's not a single person in this classroom that will appreciate what you are doing to that. And it's me trying to argue against art kids. Not really argue, just kind of like criticizing them. And that's a poor decision to make. So it's like, do whatever you want. I'm still going to say that that's weird. That and like, yeah, other people in my group had like a bunch of guys that were just going off and doing guy things, just guys being dudes. And one of them legitimately asked like, so like, what is previous action? And like couldn't grasp that previous action meant stuff that happened before the play. And like multiple people had to keep like iterating to him like, the previous action is what happened before the play started. And it's like, so they mentioned something that happened before it started. Is that previous action? I'm like, yes, that is exactly what happens. And granted, he did go into like more complex stuff, like if they mentioned something in the play that happened before the action, and then they mentioned that later in the script, does that count? And granted, it is a little bit complex, but if it's the same point, then it's the same thing. So it's not really that big of a problem, really. You don't have to spend too much thought on that. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just super smart at script analysis and everyone else is just catching up. I seriously doubt it because, those people are actually theater majors and actually wanting to do that for a living. So I'm just going to just stand back and let them do what they want to do. That aside, my wildlife class is going just fine. I have a discussion post that I need to do by the end of today, which it's fine. I can power that through easy, no problem. It's only 3 o'clock today. It's only 3 o'clock right now, so I've got like literally all day to do that. We also have an auto photography thing, which will give me a reason to use the camera that I got for Christmas. Thank you, Mom. And the comm classes are going well. I'm enjoying that. We were talking about how printing stuff in history and how Pulitzer and what's his name? Rudolph Herman? I don't think that's the name. Pulitzer and William Herman, I think. I don't know, but I'm not going to look it up either. Just talking about what they did and how they pushed journalism to the extremes and made fake news. And then we did a little side fun where we went to different news outlets on the same issues, and I had a little fun talking. And I had a little fun comparing the far left to the far right side of news outlets. So that was interesting. Ugh. God. I have to sit up now because like slumped over is hurting my back a little bit. I really need like a more comfortable chair in here if I want to keep doing it in here. Not that that buzzing in the next room is going to get any better because, in the middle of winter and we need that radiator. Can't be opened either. Yeah, I just have to take a bunch of pictures of nature, which I know personally is just gonna end up me taking pictures of a bunch of trees and being like, "Look at this! It's a good tree. I love trees." Which is a failing on the professor's part of that, but I'm taking it for general eds, and they cannot force me to care about what they're talking about. It's sad. I probably should be more conscious of nature and how I live in it, but I really don't. I'm more focused on like the production stuff of what I'm doing and filming stuff like that and doing this kind of stuff, which primarily happens indoors. So, why would it matter to me what happens outside, I guess? Which is admittedly a poor outlook to have for nature, stuff like that. So it is what it is. I can't help it, and neither can they. And speaking of production stuff that I mentioned earlier, SPTV has a creation team that I'm going to be a part of, and I am super psyched about it, actually. And basically what we're going to be doing is like going off, filling segments probably for the SPTV news part, or making advertisements for like no smoking or certain things on campus. And I'm really excited because the group that was there seemed like very fun and very into it, and I can learn to edit better. I can learn how to write stuff for things. I can do like on-screen talent. I can record for stuff. I feel so pumped for this thing, and it feels like everybody else is too, and that's awesome. I said it last week that I'm feeling good about the semester, and now I'm feeling like so good about it because I feel like I know what I want for a major. I roughly know what I want for a job, and like things are looking around. I'm doing it, Mom. I'm doing it. I'm finding out who I am. I'm finding out who I am. And part of that probably has to do with me doing like these streams and like putting all of my thoughts into one area. I can't get all of my thoughts, of course, because I forget to say things, and not all the details in my life are worthy of being remembered. But I do write down like a lot for like notes and such. Like the time I went to class on like Tuesday or something, or it was Monday, and I didn't bring any of my materials that I probably should have had at that moment in time. So I like went to class with none of the notebooks that I needed, none of the folders that I needed, and I think there wasn't a required reading, thank God. And I was just like, I got there like, well, I'm going to suffer the consequences of what I forgot because I cannot make it back in time. And yeah, thank God there was not a required reading. Unfortunately, however, there was a required reading for the next class, which, the book was extraordinarily boring, and I did read through it all. I did, physically read through it to the point where I got to the last page and was like, there, done. Problem with that is that I didn't retain a single bit of information because once we started the quiz, I was like, okay, I don't know how to answer any of these, so I'm just going to say that. And it was about like a rhinoceros, and I remember they talked about a unicorn or something, so I was like, I made some sort of bullshit up about like a unicorn type of thing. Like they were relating it to that, and you know, hopefully I get some sort of points because honestly, all the books that I don't want to be reading at the moment bore the hell out of me. And you know that's the problem with me. I just can't force my brain to do something that I hate doing, which probably looks good for anybody trying to hire me. Get that in there. But at the same time, if I can't do stuff that I don't like, then I'm never gonna always do stuff that I like. That's just one constant in life. So I gotta learn how to get better at doing things I hate. Huh. So all these notes just don't make sense. Like I wrote down here, Padua, the first large school thing of the Dark Ages, and it might be a reason why they came up with the name Padawan in Star Wars. Like, the notes that I write are just the most disconnected and such full of context notes, or like needing context, that it's just like it defeats the purpose of writing it down, honestly. Oh, this one doesn't need any context. The day that I messed up and didn't bring my supplies, I went to the DUC and there was just a bunch of people running around trying to poke at each other, pantsing each other, and I was trying to get my burrito, but I was really interested in what was going on there. And after one of the workers gets done chasing after another worker, he turns to a girl who looked like she was new there. She was had her hand up to her mouth, trying to stop from laughing, and with a calm, just dead face, she's just like, "Yeah, so any questions?" And I lost it. What a legend that guy was. I have a note here that says I'm starting to get sick again. I've got cloggy nose, my throat's starting to hurt again, and I have this sucks with 30 U's. Oh, it was an Olay ad, the Super Bowl thing. Wow, nobody's gonna remember that, but the bring women to space thing was an Olay ad. Yeah. That was an interesting bit. Interesting bit indeed for Olay. I now have the general guy as my teacher now for wildlife, so that's a little bit of a plus so far. I've grown a new appreciation for Joe the TA. That's been coming there because he's Joe. Just a nice guy, Joe. And I'm now starting to realize this, the word Joe is a very the name Joe is a very polarizing thing. You either really like this guy or you absolutely hate him. And think about it. Do you know a single Joe that you're kind of neutral with? Because me personally, I cannot. I knew a guy in my high school who was named Joe, awful person. There was a guy in Kitchen Nightmares who was named Joe, awful person. There's the guy on Alpha Red Plus named Joe, granted with a J-O, not just J-O-E. He's a great person. The guy who's TAing named Joe, great person. He looks like a pretty nice guy. So, I haven't met a single person that I've been I don't know with, at least in the name of Joe. Oh God. We were talking about like some sort of book in wildlife that Mr. General was like, I'll be honest, when I went through it the first time, I couldn't read it. I kept falling asleep. And I'm like, that's great to hear, buddy. Why do you expect us to read it and give you reports on it now? And it's like, if the stuff that you're teaching is actually boring, you can just say it. You can just say that this is all boring and pointless. And I would not care. I just need the GEP grade for this. And it really made me think, because he was talking to like other people and be like, I just couldn't get through it the first time, and everybody else was like, no, me too. Isn't that weird? Which kind of makes me think like, is this really a well-written book then? Why does this have so much acclaim if nobody can get through it in one sitting and it's just so damn boring? And it's nuts, man. I don't understand. And some people, anybody seeing this may be like, why does he keep going on and on about nothing in particular when it's so boring and nobody can get through this in one sitting? This is all for personal reason, mind you. I'm not doing this to satisfy anybody. I'm not doing this to make some sort of content. I'm doing this just so I can get my own thoughts straight in my head. And if I do get clunked on the head and need to like regain memories and stuff like that, I have this as like a hard backup or something like that. I don't know. YouTube probably won't be around forever, but at least I tried. At least I tried to do something. And as of right now, it's working well. I'm a little more in tune with my feelings and thoughts than I have been in like so long before. So I feel like this is going well, even though I'm only like 3 weeks in. But I have been doing well doing this. Oh goodness. The back to the general guy. We're supposed to be doing like an auto photography assignment. I mentioned it before, where we take like 10 pictures or something like that. And he says the line, and I quote, you could get phones with 10 gigs or even 10 megs, as if to like say the upgrade is 10 megabytes. And I'm like, oh no, we're dealing with an old man here who doesn't know the difference between megabytes and gigabytes. It was just something funny. He also said something like on social media how this one guy caught a bunch of criticism, and like once he got on his social media, the situation just kind of like mushroomed. And I just had to sit there like, you mean exploded? Don't you mean that it exploded, not mushroomed? Because like, quite frankly, what does mushrooming mean? I'm sure he meant something like the mushroom cloud from bombs exploding. That's probably what he meant, but I still find the term mushroomed funny. This is the trial period notes. Yeah. Oh no, I dropped it. It's not comfortable doing things in here because my back is so slouched. I feel, the trial period. I feel like I should do something like that just to like test out Alex, but that feels kind of shitty in itself. But like Quick Play feels like such a good name. I don't want to kind of ruin that if something's bad. I don't know. I don't think I can do it anyway because of I don't have my PC up here anyway. Speaking of my PC, I recently found out like I spent only like $1,067 on it and 10 cents, which I think is really good considering like how good like the setup really is. It's been serving me pretty well so far, and of course, like with limited usage that I've had with it, I haven't had any problems with it, so it's going well so far, and I really hope that continues to be the case. But You know, you never know. Things can happen. Things can go bad. Things can just stick right in your butt. And my phone is acting up. Don't know what's happening with that. I went into class one day with it at like 28%, and it was just like I picked it up after class and was like, just turn it on. Oh, it's off. Oh, it's like completely off. Well, whatever. Turned it back on. It was at 28%. That was weird, but whatever. We live with that. I go to the DUC, get like a small amount of food, sit down at a chair, plug it into the wall because like I always go to a wall socket because like that's the best place to be. I plug it in, boom, phone dies, 0%, just like 28 to 0 in less than a second because I plugged it in. And my phone's been like pausing YouTube videos completely randomly for no reason. I don't know why, but that's just happening. I really think either my phone is just going super dead or Samsung is flipping the kill switch on my phone because I've had it for, let's see, 5 years by now. Wow. That's an old phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy S6. So, like, it's a decent phone, but it's old. It's so old compared to what we have now. And, yeah, I have no desire to get a new phone because, like, I really just don't care about the new features and stuff. I just like want a phone I can play YouTube videos off of, and you know, a camera would be nice. I don't have a camera anymore because the back of it broke off a long time ago, and I haven't been able to take good pictures ever since. But like, I don't need the camera. I have a perfectly good camera in my room at the moment, so it's like whatever, dude. I don't care. I don't care about getting a new phone because I already have a phone and it serves me just as fine without being too expensive to use. To wrap up, I'm going to talk about the weird animation event that I went to. It's exactly what it says. It's just like a bunch of people showing up to show off their weird animation videos. They only topped at 8 minutes, but some of the boring ones were like some of the longest ones. And one of them didn't have like a single texture in it. It was all just like white on white. And I feel very bad, but I fell asleep during it. It was because I had a long day and I was just like barely getting through it at that point. But like there was just nothing to watch in that. And like it's impressive. Weird animation is impressive in itself because there's just like so much going on and such fine details that are being made in the animation itself. But when you have like complete and utter nonsense going on, you lose the audience so fast and so quickly. It's just like, why am I watching this? What's the point now? The one that I'm talking about specifically just like had nothing but white stuff in it. And that's why I fell asleep, because it was just like visually boring to watch. Which is not common in weird animation. Normally they're just like all loosey-goosey all over the place with bright colors flashing in your eyes. Except for the first one, which notably had like the guy who inked every single frame of the whole thing. And it turned out very well. That one was interesting. There was also a bunch of stop motion stuff that like started off normal but then started to bridge the gap to insanity, which was, you know, fine. That's par for the course, really. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm feeling down on certain people's animations, but those specific ones I felt down on because they just provided absolutely nothing, but they didn't even provide stimulus. It was just kind of there, and I feel like that's the worst thing you can do when you're animating. I'm sorry to the person who made it. I'm not going to mention any more than that, but, you know, I'm again sorry about sleeping through your thing. I know you worked hard on it, and it probably looks great. It did look great for the little bits that I saw, actually. the rest of it probably looks great, but I'm sorry, there's just nothing for me to grab onto it for that. And as of right that, I'm approaching an hour. Maybe I can time it so I'm gonna end it right on an hour. I'll see you next week. Thank you. I realized I forgot to say my thing, so now it's over an hour. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you're me from the future trying to get back your memory, stay strong, bud. You made me go over an hour, you jerk.